Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Mohamad Amirul Aizad by Roslee with magic number D20221101863. Okay, for today's lecture, I will talking about the operating system which I will proceed or which I will focus on the system structure. So, what is system structure? It defined as the arrangement of the computer component that are interconnected with each other to carry out tasks such as receiving output, for example, in the keyboard when we type A and then process the input according to the instruction. So we give the instruction which is I type A, so it will give the instruction to give the to produce the output, which is also the arrangement of the computer of A. So it have three of the tasks that it given, which is receiving output, process output, and also give the output. And then I will talk about the basic schema of computer system. At the top level of abstraction, the computer system consists of four different components, which is I/O devices or input-output devices, I/O ports with the input-output port, and the processor and memory. All these components work together to interact to achieve the goal of the computer system, namely compute. And then I will talk a bit about the I/O devices. A device that functions to transfer data between a computer and external environment, which is with the I/O port. The I/O devices consist two parts, namely mechanical component, which is the device itself, and electronic component, device control in the form of a controller chip. Operating systems are more concerned with electronic devices than mechanical devices. The device is real device controlled by a controller chip on the system board or card. So what are the example of input devices? For example, I will give to you is what you use regularly, which is keyboard and mouse. And then maybe you also use camera. And then what are the example of the output devices? For example, also monitor and then printer or LCD. To give you more perspective about the I/O port, you can look at the side of your laptop or on the back side of your computer, which is we have the I/O port. On the I/O port, we have different part of port, which is we have HDMI port, we have USB port, or maybe VGA port. So that's the example of port that have on your computer. And then I will talk about processor. So what is processor? The processor is the heart of the computer, which function to control computer operation and carry out data processing. The process compute perform logical operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and manage data flow by reading instructions for the memory and executing them. Processor execute is driven by the clock. The clock is used to generate pulse on the processor. On each clock pulse, the processor perform a work. Processor is also used as CPU, which is Central Processing Unit. And then we will talk about the reading mechanism on the CPU. How the CPU works. To read data from the memory location, the CPU sends the desired memory address via the address bus. Addresses bus then send a memory read signal on the control bus. The memory read signal instruct the memory device to output data at that location to the data bus so that it can be read by the CPU. So the instruction that is being given by the CPU, which is we have two stages with the fetching instruction for the memory. Let I call that it's called desired data by address bus, and then execute the instruction, which is when it get the data from the memory, it will execute the instruction. And then the processor perform work in the following step, which is it like I said earlier also, which is called the by the addresses bus, which is retrieve code instruction binary from the main memory, and then decoding instruction into the simple and carry out the action. In the processor, it consists of three main components, which is CU, or we call as control unit, which function to control the operation carried out by the computer system. And then we have ALU, with arithmetic logic unit, function to perform arithmetic and logic operation. And lastly, we have register, which is help carry out processing operation. Register function as a very fast memory, usually a place for the operand of the operation to perform. So, for example, when we have I will give the ALU, arithmetic logic unit, which is it perform arithmetic and logic operation, right? So it must conceive a operand. So when it get the operand from the memory, it will store in a fast memory, which is in the register, because it is a place for the operand. Because when we already use the CPU, we doesn't need to call the address, or we doesn't need to call the data from the main memory. So it will only put it in register, and it will call it in register, and will perform the operation when the other task is already complete. And then lastly, we have the interrupt. Signal from the external equipment request from the program or the error message to perform a specific task. If an interrupt occur, the ongoing process is stopped to run the interrupt routine. Type of the interrupt, such as software interrupt caused by the software, we call system call. Hardware interrupt, which is caused by the action of the hardware itself. And then about, for example, about pressing a keyboard button or mouse button, this is type of the hardware interrupt, which is maskable interrupt, action from the outside. Or we also have non-maskable interrupt, which is memory, IO pathing error, or the process error. So that's all that I can conclude my presentation about the system structure. I hope you guys have learned something new from me. And then that's all from me. Thank you.